Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Lee Cantor here with Stone Payton, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio. And Stone, this episode is going to be a fun one, but we got a busy week this week.
We got a busy week. It has not lost on me that late in the week, you're taking son Max up to study at Second City in Chicago, right?
Yes.
So that's going to be fun. We're all pulling for him. Max is such an energetic, poised guy. Can't wait for him to make it big and remember us little people.
That's right.
So that'll be fun. But yeah, so we got today, which is going to be a lot of fun. But then tomorrow we're at GWBC, their big powwow, their power partner thingy bobber, right. Broadcasting live all day
at the Gwinnett Infinity Energy.
Right, Gwinnett Infinite Energy Center. Then Wednesday we got Justin Barnes and his crew, Healthcare Now Radio, and This Just In. They're coming in here. And we're doing like a 4-hour block of live broadcasting.
Live radio, yeah.
Man, this is getting to be like work.
I know. It's like a job.
But this is going to be a lot of fun today. We've got a room full. We got paparazzi. We got entourage. We doubled up on the producing team this morning. First up on Atlanta Business Radio, please join me in welcoming to the broadcast Senior VP and Small Business Banker Manager with Bank of America, Mr. Michael Williams. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're excited. Recently, Bank of America put together a report, small business report.
Yes, small business owners report.
Right. So what'd you learn? Anything good happening here in Atlanta?
Yeah, Atlanta is a great place to be a small business owner based on what we learned from the study. Small business owners are telling us overwhelmingly that they feel very optimistic about the local economy, even more so than you're seeing in other metro cities across the country.
And then what was the impetus to have Bank of America say, you know what, we're going to put some energy in and really document this and do some research around the small business community?
It aligns well with our passion around really understanding what's important to our small business owners and our entrepreneurial community, and really making sure that our advice and our expertise aligns well with what's on the minds of the communities in which we live and serve.
Now, how does it work? Like you read in traditional media and some of these legacy media, this doom and gloom, and then the sky is falling. And then, I don't know, we come in here every day and there's a bunch of optimistic, passionate people trying to make things happen. Like, how do you kind of...
Well, like you said, very optimistic. Everybody's, very positive. I think a lot of it has to do with the industries that are here in Atlanta. But what you're seeing overwhelmingly is 67% of the business owners feel very positive about the local economy, right? And so that's driven by the fact that they expect revenues to grow. About 71% of the business owners are expecting revenue increases year over year, and another 87% or about 87% of that same population are saying that they're going to expand their business, with 37% saying that expansion is actually an increase in hiring, which is aligns well with what we saw in last month's job results when we saw jobs are up in overall in Georgia.
Now, why do you think that Atlanta is doing so well? Is it something unique happening here that's not happening in other places?
You know what? I think it has a lot to do with the industries that are in Atlanta. You don't see as many of our business owners concerned about trade. Right. Any of the trade reform that might be happening. Mm-hmm. They seem to be more neutral on things like that. But I would say overall, it really just has to do with a lot of folks are moving into the great state of Georgia, Atlanta specifically, and we're seeing a lot of growth. I mean,
I think it's the grits. I love the grits.
Right? You know what? I was going to say the grits, but then my wife would be like, he's always finding a way to mention grits.
That's what my wife said.
I'd say it's the grits as well.
So now, the diversity of our economy is kind of unique too in the country, right? Like we have a port, in Georgia as a whole, we have a port that brings in a lot of goods through the city. We have an international airport. We have a lot of universities. So a lot of young people, I would guess, are moving here. It feels that way. Traffic seems to be getting, a little more intense.
Can traffic get any more intense?
I don't know. I think it can, because it seems every week it seems like more and more. But again, like there's only traffic. People complain about traffic only in places where people want to be.
Exactly.
The towns that don't have any traffic usually don't have a lot going on.
Exactly. Listen, there is an extreme amount of growth. And our business owners are very excited about it. Growth means more jobs. So a lot of people move into the area. And I think across the board in every sector, you're seeing, companies looking to do more hiring.
Now, from a Bank of America standpoint, like, how do you guys serve the community? Like, I know there's branches everywhere, but like, what are you doing kind of day to day to help the entrepreneur and the small business person be successful?
You know what? At the end of the day, we understand that our small business owners are the heartbeat, right? They're pretty much the lifeblood of our communities. And so we make every effort to understand what's important to them, what they would like the power to do, and provide the expertise and advice necessary to help them grow their businesses. So whether that be around making banking more convenient or helping them grow by making lending accessible. We take pride in being one of the top small business lenders in the country.
So now walk me through like a small business. We have small business people here in this room right now. What would a relationship with a banker be like? Like before the couple in here started their business, should they have gone out and met a bunch of bankers? Like what would you recommend an entrepreneur or small business person do in order to kind of have a good relationship with a banker?
Everything is about making a connection, right? And so you want to find someone, a company that you can trust, someone who can provide you great advice, but that starts with listening to you, understanding what your life and business priorities are. Like I said, what would you like the power to do? And you want someone who could truly understand that and help you come up with a plan. And I always think it's great to deal with a company or individual that's able to grow with you. So as you grow, they can be a part of that growth. And that's one of the things that we take pride in at Bank of America, right? So whether it's a startup or, one of the largest and biggest and best in Atlanta, we can meet you where you are and help you on that journey.
And then, so what do those initial conversations look like? Like say I'm a startup, maybe I just got, laid off at a job and I'm going to start a franchise or something. And so now I've never done that before. So I'm going to call a banker to have a conversation. Look, I have this much money in my 401k. How do I get a loan to get this going? Like, what do those initial conversations look like?
You know what? It would really depend on the industry. It depends on the industry. It depends on the person's background. It may mean bringing a team of specialists to the table. You talked about, sometimes folks are leveraging their investments, leveraging their retirement plans. It's really understanding where you are on that journey and making sure that you're making the optimal decision, right? Because a lot of times when you're starting a business, you're using your own credit. Right. You're leveraging your personal credit.
I'm my bank.
Exactly. Right. And so we want to help you kind of start to build your business credit and your, business financial so that you aren't always leveraging or not having to as much leverage your personal assets. So there are a lot of different avenues, and I think it's a case by case, but really sitting down with someone, having that conversation, understanding not only where they are, but where they want to be in the next 12 months, 3 years, 5 years out, and coming up with a plan together. And I will tell you, for us, the client, the customer is the driver of that.
So then the customer sits down with, do I have a dedicated person that's my person?
Yes.
So I have a banker that's I can call.
Exactly. You will have a banker, and where it needs to be a team of specialists that can support you throughout the process.
And then, so is it reasonable to, like, what's a reasonable expectation? Is it somebody that I just give financials to and then they say, okay, I can give you a loan for X and that's my relationship? Or is it like, look, I have a question. I need a lawyer. Do you know a lawyer? Like, is it appropriate to ask the banker for resources? Like, what does the relationship look like? Is it?
I will tell you that our bankers, right, we're all a part of the community, just like each and every one of you. And so we all do business with people we trust, and we keep our internal Rolodex. Right now you can't you wouldn't come in and say, hey, Michael, you recommend who should I use for my CPA? Right. But we may have a list of folks, a couple folks that we, know of in the community, that we may be able to help you leverage. But ideally, it ultimately comes back to what does that customer need? You asked about, lending, right? Exactly what are we looking to accomplish? If it's a startup, the first part is going to be, let's make sure that you have, registered your company appropriately. Let's make sure that we have you in the right accounts for daily money management, right? Before you could probably get to that lending piece, I'm sure our business owners here today will tell you that the first part of is that daily money management as well, right? How do you make sure you can keep the lights on, and things of that nature?
And then you have tools that can help me, like a dashboard that helps me see some of the financial information that I need.
Oh, of course, we have a buffet of solutions that allows you to really not only determine where you are, but map out where you're going. It's whether it be educational or, like I said, working with someone one-on-one to develop that plan.
So now that's helping me with my day-to-day operations of my business. I have a resource, and people use the word trusted advisor a lot. The banker should be part of my trusted advisor team, right?
Yes, exactly. You definitely want someone in what I call that inner circle, right? Mm-hmm. That inner circle of advisors, kind of your go-to people, right? They aren't folks who will just tell you yes. They really help you not only think about your plan, but then go out and execute it.
So now the entrepreneurs out there and they're battling, are you kind of keeping them up to date with, like you guys, Bank of America put together this report of small business, trends and things like that? Is that something you share? Like that's something that you're like, hey, be on the lookout. This is happening here in town. Heads up, this might be an opportunity for your business.
Yeah, I would tell you. So for instance, if I'm thinking about the report and it shows me that most business owners, are expecting to apply for a loan over the next 12 months. Over 50% are saying they're going to need some additional capital infusion into their business. Then it might prompt me, right, to ask questions about your plans around growth. And then, how are you looking to finance that growth? What's the impact of not doing it, right, for 6 months, right? And then how do we go ahead and make it happen sooner so that you don't have as much gap in your business? And so that was one of the things that was interesting about the survey, that not only are our business owners, small business owners here in Atlanta saying that they're going to grow their business, but they are looking for additional lending opportunities. And like I said, really excited about the fact that, over a third of them say that they're also going to be expanding their team. So hiring more individuals.
So they're optimistic, but what do they stay up at night and worry about in general? What are some of the biggest challenges on their minds, you think?
You know what? There are two concerns that stood out in the survey. One was the political environment. This was the first year that we actually asked a question about the political environment. And not to get into too much detail on it, but just overall, the political environment was the number one concern, followed closely by the cost of healthcare. Over the last couple of years, the cost of healthcare has been number one. This spring, it was a close second.
And then that goes to I guess most entrepreneurs, their fear is uncertainty, like things they can't control.
Exactly.
It's what keeps them up at night, right?
Exactly.
Now, are there things, because so much of the work nowadays is online, do you have solutions online, or are there things that you can help a small business person, protect themselves with? Because there's a lot of online kind of fraud and.
Exactly. You know what? So first off, Bank of America is a leader in our digital technology. And so, we definitely look to secure our clients' information. In the survey, 4 out of every 5, so about 84% of the small business owners surveyed said they had done some things to protect themselves from cyber attack, right? Whether that be updating their technology, investing in technology that secures their client information, and just thinking about how they dispose of secure confidential information. So it is a hot button for all of us. No matter if you're a Fortune 500 or a startup, everyone's really focused on protecting confidential information.
Now, do you have any recommendations for that small business person? Is it something that they should to reach out to a banker to have a conversation, just to have a conversation, right? Just to proactively.
I view financial health, almost right the same as I would, just overall health, meaning if we meet with our doctors every 6 months or so, we should be meeting with someone, our financial advisor, our small business specialist, at least twice, if not 3 times a year as well, just to make sure that you're on the right trajectory to accomplish your goals and to make sure that the health of your business and financially is just as sound as you forecast it to be.
So now in your work, you have a team of people that are serving the small business community here locally in Atlanta?
Yes. I have a team of specialists that service our small business owners throughout Greater Atlanta.
And if somebody wanted to learn more and have more substantive conversation with you, what are the coordinates to get a hold of you or somebody on your team?
You know what? I would say go into any of our Bank of America locations or go online and schedule an appointment, and we'll be glad to help you make your financial dreams come true.
And you can go to Bank of
You're
America.
part of that solution. I probably oversold that a little bit. Make your financial
I thought it was
dreams come
perfect.
true. But, hey.
So bankofamerica.com will help them find
bankofamerica.com will help you find the closest financial center, and also allow you to schedule an appointment directly with a specialist.
Well, I tell you, it's encouraging to me to learn that most small business owners, entrepreneurs out there are optimistic. I like having the reality check of some of the things that we need to keep our eye on. But what I resonate most with in this conversation, Lee, kind of circling back to us and our situation, I would much rather walk into the bank and say, Susie, I know we've been talking for 6 or 8 months now, but we think we might want to borrow some money to expand. We want to open up another dozen studios. I would much rather walk in and have that kind of conversation than just out of the blue say, I know we haven't talked, we've been customers for 30 years, but we want to borrow a couple $100,000. That you're much better. There's no reason not to reach out right now, have that conversation, and really cultivate that relationship. And your bankers are happy to do that, right?
Exactly. They are very happy to do it, right? Listen, at the end of the day, we want to listen to our customers, understand what's important to you, what do you want the power to do, and then help you make that happen, right? By providing expertise and lending to help you grow your businesses.
All right, Susie, I'll reach out and we'll make that first appointment.
Outstanding. I was looking forward to it, though.
Hey, keep up the good work, man.
Thank you so much.
All right, how about hanging with us? We're going to visit with a couple more guests.
Listen, you got somebody who's on the top 40 for 40 list, and I heard there's pastries, so I'm not going anywhere.
See, he did his pre-show research, didn't he?
He's a pro.
All right. Well, with that lead in, please join me in welcoming to the show managing partner with Silver Penny Financial, Miss Charlotte Geletka. What'd you learn in that last segment, Charlotte?
Good morning.
Good morning.
That was fantastic. I could not agree more that your financial health is one of the most important things that you need to start paying attention to. So thanks for teeing me up.
No problem.
Well, Charlotte, tell us about Silver Penny. How are you serving folks?
Well, Silver Penny is a financial planning and asset management firm in Greater Atlanta. We serve over 1,000 clients, and we manage over $500 million of other people's dollars, which we know are very valuable to them. We have 7 financial advisors working, and we have 2 locations, and we are very focused on the individual financial planning. So as you were discussing very much your business financial health, we come into play when we talk about major life transitions and, your personal financial health.
Now, are your clients primarily here in the metro Atlanta area?
Primarily, yes. We do have clients that, achieve financial success and they move to exciting places.
So the Cayman Islands branch is coming soon.
We should do a remote for you guys there. You know, I think we would do that for expenses only, wouldn't we, Lee?
Absolutely.
You do realize that I'm in a regulated industry, so.
So, what is the profile of a Silver Penny client? Is that a person that is like, an athlete, or are they regular people?
That's a great question.
Owners?
I take a lot of pride in the fact that we serve everyday people. So we service 3 types of clients really well. One is retirees. So a lot of people hire us when they start having the questions, can I retire? Can I afford to retire? And they will hire us for the fee work to determine if that's a possibility for them. And then a lot of times they will hire us to manage their retirement dollars. So we're doing everything from their asset allocation to cutting them the checks every single month, withholding the taxes and doing the planning and everything in between. We also serve women in transition. A lot of times a female becomes in control of her finances unexpectedly through becoming a widow or also through divorce. And that might not be a role that she has previously played. So we help a lot of people and come alongside them and help them to understand what it means to be in charge of your financial life, including the investing, which is unfortunately something that women typically have not done as leadership in their family roles. And then we also help young professionals. We truly believe at Silver Penny that everybody needs a financial roadmap, and you need to know where you're going. And there's points in people's lives where you may not have the dollars where you need a financial advisor to manage. What we do at Silver Penny is we offer fee planning. So you can come to us, hire us, and we will give you a financial roadmap.
And then what does fee planning mean?
So that means that you're hiring us in an hourly or consultation basis, similar to you would an estate planner or a CPA. So you're just paying for financial advice. There's a big difference between having an investment advisor and having good financial advice. So we believe those two things are exclusive. We want to offer you an independent financial plan where we may or may not manage the money. We do not want those conflict of interest. And we want it to be more accessible to people who need financial advice.
So then I just pay a flat amount of money and you say, okay, do these 14 things and then see you later, bye. And then I go and then I make the investments.
Well, I'd like to think that we do such a great job that you're going to come back to us and say, hey, will you manage all my money? Which is something we do
so
too.
That's the outcome you desire. You want to be able to give the advice and also to serve the client.
Yeah, but there are some cases like the young professional. So I've done a lot recently where I'll have some couples and, they just want a financial well check. They need to know, are we saving in the right places if we have the competing interest against, saving for our kids to go to college or investing in retirement. And in that situation, they're in accumulation phase. And so their greatest place to save money is in their own 401k. Their other outside investment options just doesn't make sense for them to have a financial advisor. So
is there a dollar amount where it makes sense to have a financial advisor?
That's sort of a loaded question. It depends on each individual situation. We say about $250,000 is where you really start to hit some complexities, and it's time that you are looking at, can I look outside of what's available, maybe in the 401k or what's available through my employer.
So now, you mentioned a lot of your clients are working. Mm-hmm. And they're in accumulation phase. So they have 401k. So then they can pay you to kind of look at and make the appropriate choices within the 401k. Is that a way to at least begin a relationship with you?
That is correct. We can give them a guidebook, basically.
Right. Okay. So that's a big deal to me. My wife has a real job, right? And she has a 401 and the choices available to us are ridiculous. I get so lost and, it's like throwing darts at a board. So for a fee, knowing that that's maybe our main vehicle right now, and it has been for several years, you're willing to, and you do help us think that through.
Yes, correct.
Now, that's a big thing to me. That's a big
right.
deal.
And in the financial advisory space, a lot of people are not doing that. So we find that we're very unique and that you can pay us for our advice.
Mm-hmm. And then even though that we don't have money invested with you and your firm, you're still helping us make the right decisions with where the money is allocated right now.
Yes, correct.
But I probably would 10 years from now. Look, Charlotte's done a great job. Let's let her manage the money now that we're done, right? That happens, yeah.
Right. And if we are truly desiring to partner with you and help get you on the right financial road path, we want to see you from the beginning. So I much prefer meeting younger couples, just getting started out and coming to us saying, hey, are we doing this right, that right, kind of giving them where the red flags. Because a lot of times if it's not your area of expertise, you can't see that. You need to hire a third party to help you determine what it is you can do better.
Now, is part of the service kind of helping me with the budget and kind of like saying, hey, well, these are my saving goals, or is this appropriate, or I want to retire? Like, are you having kind of a holistic kind of lifetime?
You're using all the buzzwords in our industry. Yes. Holistic financial planning does include, we're going to look at your asset allocation, your 401k options. That's a fancy word for it. We're going to look at your competing saving goals, your cash flow, meaning where's your money going? Okay. We're going to look at your tax strategies. We're going to look at your risk management. If something happens to you, what happens to your loved ones? So we're going to uncover all those different facets.
Now, earlier, Michael mentioned that the banker was part of the team, right? So then you're saying the financial planner is also part of the team?
Correct.
Now, who's the quarterback of the team?
I'm glad you got that question.
I think you're the quarterback.
Yeah, the financial advisor in most scenarios is going to be the quarterback. We work with your other professionals, though. We think that a holistic financial plan for you and your business should include your professionals working together.
Right.
So it is not uncommon for me to have a conversation with someone like Michael or to, have a meeting with your state attorney or your CPA, or if you're not engaging those professionals, to introduce you to them.
So now when you're working with a client, is it typically a couple? Is it more one person or two people?
Typically couples, but we do, like I said, have a lot of women in transition.
So transition. So that's a tricky thing. But that I would.
Oh my. Okay, I'm trying to envision. You're sitting down with a couple. Couples aren't always on the same page about their money. So you're like half therapist too, right?
Yes.
No, I mean, let's be realistic. We have a couple in here. We won't necessarily dive into their situation. But
now that we have it, this is an intervention for the couple.
Actually, this is why you guys were invited to the show. We're like Dr. Phil. But there's
an extreme value in hiring a third party, right? Because all of a sudden, then I'm the neutral and I can explain to you the numbers. Right? We'll put it up there and we have these very open and very emotional conversations. I mean, everybody has a personal relationship with money. Okay. So each part of the couple is bringing that into the relationship. And then I'm the one that has to bring that back out again when we talk about your goals, especially when you talk about retirement. It seems so far off a lot of times when you get married and then all of a sudden you're approaching it and you need to have a vision for what your life is going to look like when you retire. If we're going to get a good financial plan for you, we need to know what it is that you're going to be doing. Are you going to be opening a business? Are you going to be traveling around the world? Are you going to be watching your grandkids? And those are things that you need to start thinking about to make sure that you're on the same page.
Now, has the concept of retirement changed a lot? I believe it has as I approach that age in terms of, my father, retirement was something they didn't think they'd live a long retirement. Now people our age, people are retiring at like 50. They could live 40 more, like they could retire more than they worked.
Yes, this is something
That's new, right?
I'm glad you mentioned that because this is something that people don't realize. I've had clients tell me several times, oh, well, I'm not going to live past 80. I said, well, that's great, but I had a 94-year-old come into my office last week.
Right.
So I can't have you telling me that if you're going to hire me to be your financial advisor. Yes, if you retire, and that's one thing that we have to show you what it's going to look like. If you choose to retire at 50, and you're going to live to 90, that's an extreme amount of time that your money has to last.
Right.
So longevity in this country is something that people are not prepared for.
So now the strategies that might have made sense, 30 years ago even, may not make as much sense. Maybe now when you're of retirement age, quote unquote, it's time to start thinking of maybe I have to invest in a business, or I have to do things that are more kind of create additional revenue streams as I get older. I can't count on the government money to be enough to kind of sustain me.
Yeah, this is accurate. And this is why you need to take a look at the entire picture to see if, the conventional wisdom is going to serve you going forward, right? So we have to match that with the unknown along with your plans. And then maybe in some instances, you have to think about things a little differently. If you think about how retirement has evolved, it used to be you work for the same company for 30 years, you got a pension, you got Social Security, and you live 12 years if you were lucky.
Right.
Okay. Now you have to accumulate a majority of your retirement resources on your own. So you really have to think about from day one when you start working, what am I going to do if I want to retire one day? And things change, right? And the financial world gets complicated. Your life gets complicated. So retirement today looks very different than it ever has before. And the complexities are greater than they ever have been. And so you really need a professional to help guide you through these situations. And we've even seen, several different phases in retirement, right? So you might be fully retired for a few years. Then you might go back to work for a few years. Then you might own a business. It just looks very different today.
Right.
Than it has historically.
Like I'm sure historically financial advisors weren't recommending you might want to buy a business, right? Like it was always invest in this stocks, bonds, some combination of that. Now owning a business is part of that portfolio nowadays for some people.
For some people. Mm-hmm.
Right. So you don't agree that you think they shouldn't do something like that?
Well, each situation is unique and different. So it's tough to give, financial advice kind of in a generalization like that. But we are seeing things that we have never seen before.
Like what?
Like, starting second careers at different ages, right? Rental income.
I'm getting a big head nod over here.
Some
from
people,
Lisa.
She's pegged us.
some people are using rental income that was not historically part of retirement. That is something now. I mean, the number one thing is your own personal savings. So that is still new and shocking to a lot of people. They have to spend 30 years accumulating money, and then the concept of decumulating that pile of money is really challenging for a lot of people.
Especially with, like we talked about earlier, with when there's uncertainty, then that brings anxiety. And people don't know how long they're going to live. So that's uncertain. You don't know what your health situation is going to be. And then you throw in complexity of with their parents living longer, you got to deal with parents and you got to deal with kids. I mean, that's a lot of variables that you're kind of playing around with.
Is there some low-hanging fruit, just, no-brainers for young people that, never do this or always do that kind of stuff? Is there any of that, just some basic stuff that maybe they should be doing?
I would say my number one advice to young people is save early, save often, and save as much as you can. You just never know what you're going to need it for. And also don't be afraid if you don't fully understand all the investments in your 401k, right? Do not let the lack of knowledge paralyze you from investing. Because investing doesn't need to be as complicated as my industry likes to make it. Just get started. Invest in something. Find an index fund inside your 401k and put your money in it.
And the time value of that money, if you're 20, 25 years old, the time value of that money is extraordinary, I think, beyond what most of us, at least I would have ever realized at that age.
Right. And it's tough now because you're getting financial news everywhere all the time. You're getting inundated with it. And it's easy to let fear creep in and prevent you from making these initial investment decisions, which are so critical to your future.
And especially you see headlines of these new things popping up like cryptocurrencies or like these kind of strange investments you've never heard of before. And then they seem to be doing really well. And you feel like you're missing out. And this is where having a financial advisor can kind of give you some reality check.
Yes.
Now, let's talk a little bit about that woman that's in transition. Must be a very scary place for a lot of these women that, they weren't involved in the financial process and all of a sudden now they have to be involved. It's not a nice to have. This is now a must have. I have to do this now. How do you help them through that?
Yeah. So that's a really tough place to be. And Fidelity recently ran a study. Only 9% of women believe that they can invest as well as men. We're also, as an industry, aware of something now called the wealth gap. So historically, we are all familiar with the wage gap, that women earn slightly less than men, but the wealth gap is the amount of assets that you have that you can utilize towards retirement, things as such. So, the statistics back up the fact that that has not been a priority for women. That has not been something that they've been in charge of. In a lot of situations, somebody else has always done that for them, be it their husband, their brother, their father. They've always had somebody else in their life that's taken the investing lead. So it can become extremely overwhelming and daunting to do that. And we really want, when they come to us, to let them know, like, that's okay. We want to remove the shame that's associated with that. No matter where you are in your life, let's get started. And we're really going to educate you and empower you to feel in control of the situation. So we're going to serve as your coach and not just a talking head that's going to tell you what to do. And in those situations, there's going to be a lot more meetings and it's going to be a slower process, but we really want to help them feel confident on that journey and that change.
So a lot of your time is spent educating?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And then what is is it shame? Is it fear? They don't want to make a mistake? What is kind of at the heart of this?
That is hard to pinpoint. In my personal experience, I think there's a lot of shame, sort of embarrassment that they don't know, right? So if you walk into my door and you're 60 years old and you say, I've never done this before. This is scary. My husband always did this and now he's not here. There's a lot of places that you go psychologically there and you just feel paralyzed. So we really want to help acknowledge where that individual is, walk with them, and really kind of get in the details of it as much as we can and try to help them to learn to be better stewards of their financial resources.
And I think it's a valuable service that you provide because there's a lot of scammers out there that are just preying upon this group of people that don't know and that take advantage of their kind of lack of knowledge about this, and they can really do some damage.
Yeah, and that's an unfortunate. It is. But we really do. And a lot of times if there's family members, that's why I think that the fee service, if they want to get to know us and see how we work and get to know our process, hey, just pay for our advice.
Right.
That's independent of us managing the money. Let's get you on the right track and figure out what's going to work for you. They get to know us, our advisors in our firm, and then they can determine if that's going to be a good match for the money management going forward.
Right. And then when they do this advisory fee service, is that an annual thing? Is it quarterly? What is the kind of rhythm of that?
Right. So when we're managing your money, there is an annual fee, which is assessed quarterly, and it's very transparent, comes off your account. So you see how much you're paying us.
Mm-hmm. And then, but if they're doing the only, I'm going to pay you X number of dollars, that's just whenever they use you, then they pay that fee.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And what's the rhythm do you recommend those meetings happen?
I think the financial check-in should happen annually, where we're doing the plan. Now, it takes 2 to 3 meetings to construct that financial plan, right? Because we're getting together, we're getting to know you.
So that's the initial one to kind of get the lay of the land.
Right. And then after that, we like to check in with you at least annually. The young professionals, they're very busy. So if we can take the time initially to set the groundwork, get a good plan, get all of the data and kind of the projections, then we can check in a year from now. How are we on track for these various cash flow projections that we've given you? Do we need to make any adjustments?
Now, when you're dealing with the young professional, are you recommending some of these kind of robo services where they just kind of take the money out and it's just kind of working for them and compounding?
It depends on each individual situation. Again, so it's hard for me to give blanket. I've seen them inside of 401ks do great asset allocations, right? Mm-hmm. And then outside, it just depends on the starting point. So if you're just getting started from zero, you might not need that. Mm-hmm. If you have begun to accumulate some assets and you're ready for something, but maybe you're not ready for a full-fledged financial advisor, then that's a good intermediary option for you.
And then when you're working with the young people, are they usually the children of your existing clients, or are these young people coming you off the streets?
Well, okay. See, I'm fascinated by this. How does a financial advisor get a new client? Because sitting here listening to you over the last 10 or 15 minutes, I have tremendous confidence in you. You exude credibility. You're knowledgeable. You're thoughtful in your responses. I I believe you would take care of my mom if she walked in and dad died. I believe, but I've also hung out with you for 15 or 20 minutes. I don't know that you get to do that out in the marketplace. I'm fascinated at how a financial advisor gets a new client. It's got to be a very different sales and marketing process, yeah?
It is. It's very different. It's changing now with social media, but traditionally, financial advisors would get clients through doing seminars and those types of things. I don't do that. We have a big enough client base where we get a majority of referrals, right? And I've also been spending a lot of energy this past year going out and telling people what it is that we do. So doing things like this, I also do some writing for industry publications and also LinkedIn, social media, all those types of things. But traditionally, it is a difficult sales process for financial advisors to find people that are a right fit.
And then is it because you're asking a person to trust you with their life savings?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So that doesn't happen, in an hour.
You want to try me? Because
What's your personal best in amount of time from meeting someone to getting their life savings?
You don't have to say that on the record, Charlotte. Don't make it.
No, but typically it's probably years,
let's just
right?
put it this way. I'm good at what I do. Okay.
But is it typically, what's the average then for the industry? Is it years?
You got to build
have
that
to build a
relationship,
over
right?
a year or two? I mean, it can't be something that I meet you and then I just cut you a check.
You would be surprised. You
Really?
would be surprised. It depends on what it is you're looking for, right? Some people have just reached a point where they have interviewed several professionals. They meet you. They see your process. They like your process, and they don't want to manage their money anymore. So
Right.
they need
So then
someone
they're
else.
ready to make a decision.
And then there's other situations where they're going to pay me the fee once a year, write a check to me for years before I'm going to manage the money.
Right.
So that really depends on what you are looking for and if you're ready. And we really want to work with people that value financial advice.
Right.
So we're not going to beg you to be our client.
Right.
We do great work. We truly believe in our process and the way we do financial planning. We really want those clients that we can offer the most amount of value to, right? Mm-hmm. So we're selective too in the process of who we select to become clients because we are going to have a relationship with you and we're going to be there when things don't go well, right? So I have worked as a financial advisor in the Great Recession, 2009. So that's still scarred into my
right. So
memory.
You've had those calls.
I have had those calls. Okay. So I know what it's like when things in the financial markets go beyond our control, right?
Right.
So when you're going to call me in that particular instance, I need to be a relationship where we have a mutual respect for each other.
Right.
Because you're going to be really upset and I need to walk you through that scenario. I need to talk you off the ledge.
Right. And a lot of times the worst time to make major decisions are during that kind of emotional state.
Mm.
Well, fear and greed rule the world. I can tell you that. And one of the things that we do is behavioral coaching. A lot of the decisions that you make in your finances have more to do with your behavioral instincts than they do with your cognitive mind, believe it or not. And it's not natural to be an investor. Warren Buffett said it best. He said, investing is simple but not easy. Because when you should be buying is when it feels the worst, right? Mm-hmm. March of 2009 was when the market bottomed. And hindsight's a very interesting thing, right? Because we all said, we should have bought. But the people that I spoke to on that day, they were at the pinnacle of fear.
Right, because they don't know if that's really the bottom or is it going to keep going down. And they don't ring a bell when it hits the bottom or the top.
Right. Right. Which is another advantage of having an investment advisor with you because you're having to make these really tough psychological decisions on your money and you cannot be objective because your emotions get involved. Right. So even the past 2 weeks, I've had a lot of people, we've had a lot of phone calls and they said, okay, I just need you to tell me that I'm doing what I should be doing. Mm-hmm. Said, I told you we were going to have this phone call. Now we're having it.
Right.
They said, okay, great. I feel so much better. I'm like, great. Well, that's why you're paying me.
Right. Because there's cycles and sometimes you're at the top, sometimes you're bottom, but you got to believe overall, if you believe in the American economy or whatever investment group you're buying, if you believe optimistically, like Michael said earlier, then you got to be in for the long haul. So now, if somebody wants to have more substantive conversation, well, before we wrap, I want to know about this Morningstar Advisory Board. How has that come about, and how did you get involved with that group, and how has it helped?
So this is something new. Morningstar is the largest independent third-party research company probably in the world. I don't know if you've heard of them. They have the star ratings, right? So 5-star fund. They started back in the 80s identifying mutual funds because that's sort of how the investment industry evolved. And due to my work in the industry and probably the fact that I'm a little unique, there's not a lot of investment advisors that look like me. They have an advisory board, a member of investment advisors that are kind of helping them from the field give the perspective of what they're seeing out amongst individual investors. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to join that board and help them. They have a lot of technology and a lot of resources to help both the professional investment advisors and the individual investment advisors.
And then you're writing articles, or you're doing things of that thought leadership, speaking?
I do a lot of how to financially empower females. Mm-hmm. Because like I mentioned earlier, there is a gap there. And so I realize that in order to improve that, I've got to get out there because there's very few people, like I said, that are females in this industry. And so I need to encourage the young females to get started.
That's true. There's not as many female advisors?
16%.
16? You're kidding me.
Wow, I did not know that.
16%. That's weird.
That's on a good day.
No, well, we interview a lot of people, and most of the people we interview are female advisors. So it occurred to me that was the vast minority. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's stunning. Why do you think that is?
Lots of reasons. The finance industry has typically not been a very female-friendly place. Even if you look at the language, some of the terminology for investments, alpha, beta, it is a very male-dominated field. And there's also a new body of research that's kind of with the women's empowerment movement where we're starting to ask questions. Why is that? Why aren't females investing as much? Why do we feel less confident as a gender? So this is sort of a new, field of study, field of research, but it's a difficult industry as a female because most of the financial decision makers are the men. Right. So for you to get started in this career when you're younger, you have to be able to communicate effectively to someone who's very different than you, that investments. Right. So they're just naturally not going to gravitate towards that.
So now what's next for Silver Penny?
Well, as Michael said, we're a small business. We're very optimistic. We're growing. We are accepting new clients. So we love what we do. We're very dedicated and passionate about serving the individual. And I'm very passionate about financial literacy. So I'm going to continue going to speak to local area schools. And we really want to move the needle and take the stigma away from talking about money.
And if somebody wanted to learn more, website?
silverpennyfinancial.com.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and visiting with us. And I love what you're doing with respect to financial literacy. And I'm personally of the opinion, and I'm not the example of this, but I'm of the opinion that the younger we can start educating our folks just to be smarter about all this, because there really is something to this time value of money. And you don't have to be a hotshot 6-figure earner to make have a very comfortable retirement. I mean, I've got a cousin who was a school teacher. She's a multimillionaire. And I think it's because she probably got connected with someone like you and really helped her think through her financial plan.
It's that compounding thing, right?
Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world.
Got to get in on that early.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you so much for coming in and visiting with us, and congratulations on the Morningstar thing. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Hey, stay with us. We got one more group we're going to talk to, okay?
All right, I'm in.
All right, Lee, you ready for the headliner, buddy?
I am.
They've been so patient. They've been nodding their head. They've been taking notes. They've even laughed at, a few jokes that we tried to throw out there. They've been great sports. Please join me in welcoming to the show with La Macaron Alpharetta. Did I say that close to right?
Pretty close.
Lisa and Dave Amundsen, how are you?
We are great. Thank you for having us today.
What's a macaron?
Yes. Welcome to Le Macaron French Pastries, new to the Atlanta area. I was laughing and nodding along so much with you, the financial planners, because I was the epitome of the woman not knowing what I was doing. And the one thing I wanted to comment about that before we moved on to us was everything truly is relationship based, and that's what we did when we were interviewing financial analysts to become our partners. And this was many years ago, because my husband's in finance, so he kind of drug me along with him. I'm not that person. And the one thing I can tell you is you may not know who you love right away and who you trust right away, but you definitely know who you don't.
Good point.
As a woman who is learning, we've been talked down to a lot, and you know, I don't know a lot, so I'm not shy, so I come right in and I'm like, explain that. And so it's been a very interesting run, and I'm proud of you for what you're doing for that. So thank you.
Saying that.
So tell us about La Macaron. What was how'd you get here? Like you weren't you're from France and you're making pastries?
So I'm Italian.
They didn't have an Italian pastry franchise?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I don't cook, I don't bake.
No, right. Yeah. He's not allowed in the kitchen. No, we are also the epitome of the, I don't want to say midlife crisis, but midlife change, changed kind of where we were going in the world.
So where were you at pre La Macaron?
So my background is hospitality. So that was my degree. And, my husband was, in finance. Mm-hmm. And so he was part of a big reduction force after 23 years at a big company. Mm-hmm. So he kind of looked at me and said, I'm kind of done with corporate. And I thought, well, that's great. I don't know what we're going to do now. So, I currently work in the hospitality field, which is really, really nice. I love it. I've been, working with a company called Helms Briscoe for the last 15 years, and I work with meeting planners. So I've been blessed to be able to kind of, keep trucking along in my industry, which is kind of a rarity nowadays. Actually practicing in what you graduated in. So that's kind of fun. And so this was a really great transition for us. We wanted to be business owners for many years. We've talked about it. And
so it was always back burner.
It was a back burner.
Future us one day will have our own business. You didn't know what it was. It could have been anything.
Exactly.
Could have been anything.
What were some of the things that didn't make the cut?
Well, first of all, I got hooked up with a outplacement service as a result of my reduction in force.
So they told you what you were good at?
Well, not quite like that, but in the course of the relationship there, I was introduced to a franchise consultant and actually went to a seminar that she was putting on. Mm-hmm. And like when Lisa and I have been talking in the past about owning a business, I mean, we were all over the place, and it was usually something around food service of some sort, and like good food, sweet food kind of stuff. But never having owned a business before, it's like, I don't know if it was just talk or not.
Right.
But we went to this franchise consultant, or I went to this seminar that she was putting on, and I had never thought about franchising, in that way before. And, she said a lot of good things about it, and it really kind of piqued my interest. And, I remember going back to Lisa after I attended that seminar and say, hey, we really should, this is something we probably could look at and do something.
So once you kind of make the leap, okay, so franchising is a possibility. Mm-hmm. And then now that just is the beginning, because there's 50 million franchises, right? And food ones, they're probably more than any of them.
Exactly. I'll tell you, the consultant was the key, because she really sat down with us, and being a married couple, the first questions were really, should you guys work together? Really? I mean, I don't want to be, I don't want to, right. I don't want to have to refer you to a divorce lawyer down the road kind of thing. So she did a lot of, questioning of what do we expect? What are we good at? What he's good at? What am I good at? How are we going to make this work? Will we kill each other? That kind of thing. And honestly, we've been blessed with the fact that, he and I are so opposite that it works. It really works. So
Complementary. Yes.
But
complementary.
Now, what part of the decision-making process, though, is do I want a franchise that I don't have to do anything and it kind of is doing it and I'm funding it and I'm kind of making sure it's all working? Or another one is, am I going to go in there and talk to customers and sell stuff?
Right. So you just described Dave and then me. So Dave he was looking for something with lower risk because, again, he's the financial guy. That's his background. I wanted to sell happiness. I am totally about customer service. I'm a people pleaser and I want to make everybody in the whole world happy. Yeah, that's kind of hard to do. So, this really was a great fit for the both of us. It was a lower risk, opportunity being a franchise versus opening our own business starting from scratch. And then he researched more the business model and it was something he could swallow. So I think it was a good.
I think we didn't want to be absentee owners.
Right.
I think we both want to be
involved. You both wanted to be in there and kind of serve the community, meet the neighbors and things like that.
Yeah. We don't want to be doing this 80 hours a week, but hopefully we'll be able to, once we get open and running and, get into some, cycle of operation, we'll be able to kind of pull back a little bit, but still stay involved to the extent.
So now the first one's going to be in Alpharetta?
Yes, sir.
But there's going to be a bunch of them?
Well, our 3-year plan is 3 stores, 3 years.
3 stores, 3 years.
Oh, wow. So it's ambitious, but it's doable.
So you already have the locations kind of mapped out?
We do. Our first one will be at inside North Point Mall, which we're really, really excited about.
So it'll be a storefront or a kiosk?
It'll be a 250-foot square kiosk. So we're excited. So it's quite large, and we'll have a full array of product. And being that North Point's kind of undergoing this whole renovation and a revamp of the whole mall scenario, as everybody knows, since retail kind of took a big hit these last few years, we're very excited to be on the ground floor of that. So, all of that construction has started and, city council is backed them up, which we're really excited about. And we kind of waited until that happened and got the buy-in of the city and we were happy to jump in.
Nice. So is it malls? That's the locations of all of them, or that's just the first one?
No, that'll be the first one. Hopefully that we're hiring for that one now. So if anybody out there is interested. We're hiring for North Point Mall and, we will be opening hopefully by the end of September, assuming all of our construction renovation is going on schedule. And then our next location, we are working, on Avalon. So that's the outdoor, kind of lifestyle brand mall. And that one is going to be a totally different concept. And that is going to be taking just our core product, which is the macaron, and, showcasing it in an 8-foot by 8-foot outdoor kiosk. So it'll be
8 foot by 8 foot?
An 8 foot by,
so is that a cart?
It is. It's a cart. So we're designing, it'll be the first one of its kind. It's very new to the owners and the franchisee. And the franchisor helped us kind of develop the whole thing. We worked with, a company out of New York that kind of does all of the display units for Le Macaron, because they are all cooled. They're specially made for Le Macaron. So, we think we've designed a really great product, to be able to withstand the Georgia heat in the summer and still remain open in the winter. So it was a totally different concept and they haven't built this one before. So
now does that, you roll it in every day or it's permanent?
No, it'll be a permanently mobile. It is able to be moved. It is on wheels. However, not roadworthy. It's not a food truck per se, but we can actually move the location.
But is it like where you could bring it to a festival?
We could actually. It's not as easy of a setup, so we kind of don't want to do that. We really want to find a home at Avalon, and we're excited about that as well.
We'll have to figure that out once it's actually built and we actually start using it and see how easy it is to get around.
Then, where are they baked?
So the corporate office, I call it corporate office, the franchisor is located in Sarasota, Florida. And it's a family that came from France and decided that the United States just needed a really, really delicious macaron. So the mother-daughter team from France decided, let's do this. The daughter happened to have married a pastry chef in France. So she sent for her daughter and her son-in-law, and Her son-in-law, Didier, is the master pastry chef. And he brought in a friend also from France, and they both run the confectionery. So everything is done on site by hand. They can produce about 13 to 16,000 macarons of one flavor a day.
So how do they get to you?
So they get shipped up to us. So nothing is flown. Everything is driven. So we unfortunately don't deliver outside of our area. Shipping is just hard on a macaron. They're so delicate.
Right.
So yeah.
So then, so they get to, you have a place where they're all at, and you bring them to the different locations?
We do. We have a kind of a home base at North Point. They've worked with us to get a
So that's going to
nice
be
unit.
kind of the home base for all of the locations?
Maybe. We'll see how that works out. We're hoping to
that
our
learning
third one.
curve is fun,
It
isn't it?
is so much fun. So much fun.
We have a big walk-in freezer at North Point now, so that's where all the product will be housed.
Yes. Yes. But we anticipate our third location, we're hoping for a full sit-down cafe.
Oh,
So
wow.
that we hope to turn into our home base,
Right.
3 years down the road.
And then, so what's been your favorite part of this adventure so far?
The networking. For
Really?
me, yeah. That's what I enjoy doing. So, getting out and talking to people and telling about this amazing product. The product was the huge buy-in for us. I hadn't met a macaron that I actually liked,
Right.
to be perfectly honest. So that was a tough sell, and my husband had never tried one at all, but at
Right.
least in the hotel side of things, I got
Right.
to try them. However, when we got to try the Le Macaron,
It was different.
It is phenomenal.
Right.
It really, truly is. I am not a baker. I love to cook, but I am not a baker. You do not want me baking. So, this has been a really great way to bring something new into the market that I felt really good about
and
selling.
you're passionate. And then is the business model, is it primarily just people who stumble upon it where they're in that location, or is there a catering angle? Is there a corporate gift angle?
There's all of the above.
So then, but that means you need salespeople for those channels.
Correct. That would be me.
Oh, there you
so
go.
yeah, that is where my heart is in, the sales part of it. So, I'm hoping with my connections in the hospitality industry, the meeting planning side, that will help me get started on maybe more the corporate gifting or the amenities for hotel rooms.
But what
or
about
guests.
selling it to other places, restaurants and things like that?
Yeah, actually we are working with, a nice young lady, south of the city who is opening up her own, bakery, and she just cannot bake everything herself.
Right.
So we will be providing her with, our specialties, which is our macarons and some eclairs and some of our French gelato.
So you're having
we are
gelato
excited.
too?
We are. We'll have
Wow.
we'll have gelato at our North Point location. I do believe they have about 12 to 13 flavors, and we'll carry about 8 at a time and have some specialties. And we've got 20 flavors of macarons, 6 flavors of eclairs. And I feel like I should have brought you guys some today.
We'll just use our imagination.
But yes, so catering is the other, to answer your question about catering it's such a loose term because catering can mean so many different
Right.
things. Catering can be, it's your birthday party and
Right.
you want a really pretty display. The nice thing about, our macarons is they're gluten free and they're only about 80 calories each. So they're a little bit more like mini indulgences. But they don't leave you feeling guilty. And the gluten-free aspect of it, made with almond flour, I think it's a great selling point for people like getting married and you have your big, beautiful cake, but you really want another alternative for those who
Right.
can't. And having a big, beautiful macaron display, maybe in your wedding colors or something. So there are different ways to cater, because we're not a full-fledged, event facility or anything like that. So we're not providing dinner. We're your delicacies.
So now, when is the grand opening again?
Well, we're hoping. We're hoping for the third week of September. So
All right, so
we'll
it's
be
only a
getting
couple
more
months.
information. Yes,
You're getting close. So now, do you have kind of a website or a landing page of some kind to get on a waiting list to the?
Absolutely. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Le Macaron Alpharetta. There's only one O in Le Macaron, i.e. the macaroon is the coconut with chocolate.
This is not that.
This is not that. So yeah, Le Macaron Alpharetta, Facebook and Instagram. And our main website is through the franchise, which is lemacaron-us.com.
And then they can find all the locations.
Absolutely. All the locations around the country. There's about 40 to 50.
All right. Well, Lisa and Dave, thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. This is Lee Cantor for Stone Payton. We will see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.